And we are live. What's going on, people? Welcome to another installment of the NBA Mock Draft Show Live 4.0. And on today's version of the Mock Draft Show, I have a special group of guys joining me on today's Mock Draft Show. I'm really excited to have all these guys. These are guys I really respect. Around the NBA draft world. So excited to get them on. Just to give you a little. Some information on how we're going to do this. It's similar like the other shows. We're going to do a one-round mock. Each guys are going to have 6 picks, and we'll do a snake draft. So I'm excited to get everyone going. Oh, we lost Steven again. But first, let's introduce everyone. Let's go. Keandre from Hoop Intellect. Keandre, what's going on, my man?
What's going on? Happy to be on here with you for the first time.
Yes. I've had Keandre on the podcast before, so excited to have him on. He does some good stuff on YouTube and all that. I got Rafael Barlow from Me Draft Junkies. Rafael, what's going on, my man?
What up? It's all good. Thank you for having me on.
No doubt. I got a newcomer. I got Lee from Which Carolina, one of my favorite followers on Twitter. What's going on, my man?
Appreciate you having me, and great to be on with this group.
Yes, excited. And I got my man Stephen Gillespie from the Breaking the Game podcast, also part of my network, the Off the Ball Network. Happy to have you on, Stephen.
Man, it's a pleasure as always to work with you, Prez.
Yes. All right, so let's get into it. Obviously, the draft's finally coming up, right? The real NBA draft is finally coming up. It feels like it's been 2 years we've been getting ready for this draft. So finally, we're getting closer to the draft. So let's get into it. So we came up with who's going to be drafting. So we have the order set. So let's get right into it, guys. All right, let's go in. So we got the Minnesota Timberwolves. They have the number 1 pick in the draft. Lee, you're on the clock. Who's Minnesota taking?
All right. Well, obviously, it's no secret. There's no clear-cut consensus number 1 pick in this draft, as there has been in previous drafts. So you've kind of got your pick of the litter here at the top. I'll make this short and sweet. I'm going to go with Anthony Edwards from Georgia, number 1 with Minnesota. Obviously, like I said, there are a couple different options you can go that I think are fair and legit. But with Anthony Edwards, matching him with D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns, I think it makes sense from a roster standpoint. Obviously, he's probably not going to step in immediately and help their defensive woes by any means. But in my opinion, he's probably got the best toolkit in regards to like ISO scoring. He's pretty much got all the separation, ISO creation moves you could want from a wing player. Obviously, he's a spotty shooter at this point, but that's going to improve as he gets in the NBA. And his spacing was less than adequate at Georgia. So I think when he's on an NBA floor, he can get out in transition and have a little bit more space to operate. He'll look a little bit more efficient, hopefully. Certainly not a guy that's probably going to make a massive impact right away, like some former number 1 picks. But I think he's got a ton of upside and just makes sense from a roster standpoint.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people have Anthony Edwards going there. His upside too. I mean, he's built like a tank too. So I mean, that fit, with D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns. I think that's definitely a good fit. So all right, we got the Golden State Warriors at the number 2 pick. Steven, you're on the clock.
Yeah, I'll keep this simple. I think James Wiseman. There's a lot of speculation as to how good he actually is.
Oh, we lost him. I think he went with James Wiseman.
James Wiseman.
James Wiseman's the pick. All right, he said he was going to keep it short and sweet. So we got that.
I'm so sorry.
Don't worry, bro. Don't worry.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi is acting crazy, but yeah, I think James Wiseman to the Warriors makes a lot of sense because they need a big. We don't know how good he's going to be based on the time that he, didn't show us in college, basically. But he was largely regarded as the best player in his draft class. I think that he's a good get for the Warriors.
There we go. Tons of upside too. I mean, only played 3 games in college, so short sample size, but obviously a physical.
I think at his best, you're kind of looking at like a Chris Bosh type player, and I think someone like that, maybe even a little bit better on defense if everything goes right with him. And obviously, that's something that the Warriors would be more than happy to have if they do hang on to this pick.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, is that they keep this pick because there's obviously a lot of speculation that they might try to, trade this pick and maybe try to get a vet in there. So we'll see what they do. But all right, we got the third pick. We got the Charlotte Hornets. So Keandre, we got the Charlotte Hornets. Lee's definitely tuned into this pick. So
Rooting for you.
Yeah.
So what you got, Keandre?
So this is I'm in kind of a difficult place here because they have the two guards, Terry Rozier and Devontae Graham, but I also think LaMelo Ball is probably the most talented player in this draft. But then you got a guy like Onyeka Okongwu who probably fits their team a little bit better. You get a big who I think is going to be solid for a lot of years down the road. But I think I'm going to go with LaMelo Ball here. I think his talent and upside is too much to pass up. I think they'll be able to figure it out with Rozier and Graham. Maybe even play Ball at 3 at points. He's hasn't been a good defender at any point in his life, but more time in the league as he gets bigger. They say he's 6'8" now. I know he's put on a lot of weight. I think just with more experience in the league and everything, it would eventually work out. He's too good to pass up, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, for sure. Are you worried at all about him leaving the combine? I know that was a big speculation and all that. Does that worry you about that? Do you think he's trying to ploy something? They're trying to try to get somewhere, or what do you think about that?
I thought it was interesting that he actually did the interviews in the first place. I didn't think he would participate at all. Just kind of let everything happen how it happens. But in general, most of the top guys kind of, their agents tell them stay out of it as much as possible and then just go from there. So I'm not really that concerned.
I'll say I think most casual Charlotte Hornets fans would be pumped to get LaMelo just from a excitement standpoint. And I also think that obviously you would hope a top pick would start right away, but even if he didn't, Charlotte was so inept, like from a playmaking standpoint in their second unit, that you could kind of hand him the keys in the second unit and just like let him create. So the fact that we didn't really have much of a secondary playmaker besides Devontae Graham, I think it's a smart pick, and I think Charlotte fans would be pumped to see that.
Yeah, Ralph, how do you feel about LaMelo and his game?
Well, I'm not high on LaMelo.
Yeah.
Imagine if LeVar Ball can fool Magic with Lonzo, he can definitely fool everybody again. I mean,
is it the shooting? Is that what is the biggest concern for you?
Or the off the ball stuff? No pun intended.
No, I mean, I think the shooting. I just think that I think his stock is a little higher than it should be because of the hype. I mean, everything he does gets pumped up. And I went out there to watch him play, and I felt like he was in a situation that was somewhat similar to when he was in the league that his dad started. And I've been saying, if he would have shot underhand scoop shots from 3, he was not coming out the game. And so he was in a situation that was tailor-made for him to succeed, and the coach couldn't really bench him or hold him accountable for anything because he was generating so much revenue. And so I think that once he gets to the NBA, unless a team may give him the keys because he's going to be such a high pick, but I just want to see him play in some real structure where he has to actually play defense. He ranked as the worst defender in the NBL last year.
Yeah.
And that's not it's a decent league, but he just has no interest in playing defense. I mean, talent wise, he's incredibly talented and skilled, and
of course,
he has some things you can't teach. I like the fact that he didn't turn the ball over, which is for a guy that throws so many high risk passes, he did a good job of having a assist-to-turnover ratio. But when I went out there and watched him play, one of the things that turned me off about him was before the game, it was just so lazy. It was kind of like, it's not a big deal, but it was like the first game him and RJ went heads up and there were scouts there. He got off to such a terrible start. He made no effort on defense. I think he got a shot block 3 or 4 times in the first half. He showed his talent in the second half, but it was almost like, he was just too cool and too laid back, and he knew no matter what he was going to get his minutes. And so I just have my concerns about same concerns I have with Anthony Edwards. We put him in a situation where, you know, everything is not built around them, and they have to play with more talented teammates. I just wonder how will they adapt and adjust.
Yeah. Do you guys worry at all with him as far as like you said, like he's been in the spotlight forever, right? It feels like we've known about him for such a long time. Do you think that just that motivation, like he has the fame, he's got the money, like, you know, for a lot of players, that's their drive, right? Is to get the money, you know, to get that contract and to be able to provide for their family. That's not really his, you know, he's set there. So do you think that at all that's what is going to scare a lot of teams? It's just like, we don't know what his drive and determination is. Like, does he really want to be great, or does he just want to just say he's an NBA player? Like, I think that's something I think teams are really going to dive in, especially with LaMelo.
Well, to me, it would be the opposite. I think you have to worry about that with every player. I mean, you can't. If every team could predict how a 19-year-old is going to react when you put $10 million guaranteed in their bank account, then they would know. Like, I had a friend, he played in the NBA. He said something to me that stuck with me. He says, man, you know how hard it is to get out early in the morning and work out every day when you can be anywhere you want to be in the world within the next 24 hours?
Yeah.
And so at least Melo, the money isn't new, the fame isn't new. I think he's the most prepared for that. It's the other guys I'll be more concerned about as far as, you know, that aspect of it.
Yeah, I guess we can go either way. Yeah, that is a good point. It can go either way. It's crazy. It can go either way with him. But that you did bring up a good point with that he could be actually ready for that because he's been in the spotlight for such
he already had a Ferrari. So most guys, their agents won't let them get a Ferrari to their second contract. So he had his Ferrari when he was 16.
Right? Most agents will tell you, like, you don't spend anything on your first contract. Like, you wait until you get that, you know, that big time, you know,
second deal.
That second deal when you can buy a house and all that. Like, I remember Gilbert Arenas was on his podcast and he was talking about, like, I got this, I got a car, I got a house. Then I had like $400 left. I was like, a month. Like, he was like, yo, and he's like, I should have listened to my agent. My agent should have told me, like, yo, you can't, like, especially, you know, where you get drafted, all that. Like, no, you get your money. You do all that stuff when you get that second guaranteed contract where you get some big time money. So,
and he was a second round pick, so that made his story even crazier.
Yeah, and that's what it was even crazier. Like, you're getting second. Like, I think he expected to be a first round pick. He was expected to be, but you know. And because he was a leading scorer in Arizona and all that, like, and he was a second round pick, so it's crazy that, you know. But we'll see with LaMelo. So all right, we got I'm on the clock with the Chicago Bulls, and I'm gonna go Killian Hayes here. He's my number one prospect on the board. You know, I just love his game. I love everything about it. I love his playmaking. I just think, you know, you pair him with Kobe White. I know it may not be ideal fit. You know, ideal work them together, but to me, you could put him, you know, play him at the 2 and have Kobe at the lead. I think it's too good to pass up, and, you know, with Zach LaVine and all that. I mean, they could play fast. I think it's you know, I think it's going to be definitely, it would be a great pick for them, and I think you know, a step in the right direction for Chicago. So I'll go with Killian Hayes there with the fourth pick. All right, we got Ralph. We got Cleveland. The Cavs are on the clock. You gonna take another point guard?
Nah, I'm going back to back.
Par for the course.
I'm going back to back international. I'm taking Deni Avdija. I think that he fits. I mean, I'm really buying into Deni Avdija that we saw in the Israeli League playoffs, and the Deni Avdija we saw at the under-20s last year, where he's more so used as a point forward. And I think that with their small backcourt and their shoot-first backcourt, I think that he could come in and provide some balance, be a secondary playmaker, and you know, rotate between the 3 and the 4, but also have some ball handling duties. So I would take Avdija if I'm Cleveland.
Yeah, they definitely could use him there. All right, so you got Atlanta, number 6 pick.
All right, Atlanta. You know, with Atlanta, no matter who you select, it's going to be redundant to who they already have. And so, but I think defensively, they need help on the defensive end. I usually would be against taking guys and at such a young age and having them in their hometown, but I'm going with Isaac Okoro. I think that Hawks were the second worst defense in the league. No, maybe they're the worst. It was between them and the Wizards.
Yeah.
And so,
Right.
I just think that they need I guess Cam Reddish he graded out as a good defender. Hunter is supposed to be a good defender. Collins missed some games. Capella should help on the defensive end, but I think Okoro gives them some toughness. And it's tough because he'll be the sixth pick. There's no guarantee he'll come in and start, but I think you can say the same for whoever they select at this point. I don't think Reddish and Hunter are good enough to where you say, well, we're not going to take somebody in the same position because we're holding out for them. So I think Okoro would be the best fit there.
Yeah, and with Okoro, do you think if Okoro, obviously the issues is his shooting. Do you think if Okoro, like if the shooting was down packed, do you think he would be the consensus top pick? Because it seems like he does everything good, other than the shooting that needs work. I feel like everything else he does really, really good. Do you think if we add it I feel like with most prospects, if we add one thing, the weakness to a lot of these prospects, especially with him, if you add, I think he's the number one pick in the draft. If we add the shooting, do you think if he could figure out the shooting that he would be the number one pick in this draft?
No, I think he would still be I think at best he'd be like a very, very good complementary player. I think to be number one, he's a franchise guy. His shooting, his confidence is so low. He doesn't even shoot open shots. So it's a hard stretch to get him going from not confident shooter to being a really good shooter. But he hasn't played since March, and he's had a lot of time to work on his shot. But no, I guess I've seen some people kind of comparing him to Kawhi. That's tough, but I guess I can see it. I can see it on.
I've seen people do that too. That's crazy. Like that's a tough comparison. Comparisons like that are really tough to do.
Yeah, I just think that he would grade out as a guy who would, at best case scenario, be like a superstar complimentary player, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think he would be a great fit for Atlanta too. Like adding a guy like that, who could defend, because like you said, Atlanta's issue right now is defense. So that definitely would be a good pick for Atlanta.
I think sorry, I was just gonna say with Okoro, obviously the shooting is a little bit of a mess, and in today's NBA, that's totally a super legit concern. But like the nuance of Okoro's game in the half court, he makes some really good passes. He cuts pretty well off the ball. And obviously he's like a pretty elite on-ball defender. I think some people do miss sometimes that he's got a little bit more of a basketball feel than he gets credit for at times.
Yeah.
So that gives me some optimism that maybe he can figure the rest of it out, because he does have a innate feel off the ball. And with just like simple half-court passes, moving the ball, he does a pretty good job, especially for a young player.
Yeah, and I think all of that will be unlocked with his shooting, because even if I don't even know if you can maximize his passing and ball handling in ball screens, because teams are just going to go under every single time. Yeah. So I think if he can become just an average shooter early in his career, then it will unlock his passing ability and, make him even more of a threat as a cutter, because it's hard to cut when the defense is playing so far off of you and they're already in the lane.
Exactly. Yeah, but like you guys said with him, like I feel like, the shooting obviously needs work, but I feel like he does everything else so good that, if he can get down the shooting, he's going to be a solid pro. So we'll see with Isaac. All right, so we got Detroit on the clock. I got the Pistons. I'm going with Obi Toppin here. I know there's a lot of issues defensively. Ralph, we talked about this, with his defense and, how he's, for a guy so athletic, he could be really stiff and all that. But I think the offense to me is NBA ready. I think he can go in right into Detroit, who's kind of in a weird spot. They don't know whether, they need to full rebuild or they're going to try to go for it. They're one of those weird teams in the middle. But I think, adding Obi Toppin, who can, such a super freak athletically and, can score, can do a lot of things good for Detroit. So I think Detroit will go with Obi Toppin here. All right. Keandre.
So what are you doing with Sekou? You think Sekou is a 3?
Yeah. You could put Obi at the 4. I know they got. I feel like they're going to try to do something with Blake. I don't know who wants to take his contract. I think that would be a tough. That's definitely going to be an issue. But I feel like they're going to try to have to rebuild somehow because to be in the middle, they're kind of in this weird. They're in that weird middle where. That you don't really want to be in the NBA, right? You don't want to be in the middle because you kind of don't know what direction you want to go with. So I feel like they got to try to find someone to get Blake and just go full rebuild. I mean, they traded Drummond, to Cleveland, so they got to figure out that. But
traded him for a pack of Skittles in this.
They got right. They got like 2 second-round picks. Like it's crazy. They didn't get like. Yeah. It's like they just literally took whatever deal they heard, and just dealt him. Like
whoever called first.
Yeah, it's like with the Knicks, they were Porzingis. Like Dallas is like, hey, Porzingis, yep, okay, bye. It's like what? Like they literally took the first deal, and you would think for DeAndre, like for Drummond, I understand his skill set is not as valued as it once was, but it's still he still does some good things that can that works, but. 2 second round. I think he got 2 second rounds for him. That's crazy that they only got that little for him. But Detroit's in that weird stretch. But all right, Keandre, you got an important pick here, man.
Yeah,
you got an important pick. Knicks Nation's watching, so let's see what you do here.
So there's a lot of places you could go here with this pick for the Knicks. I think I'm gonna go with Kyra Lewis Jr. I think he's one of the more talented players in this draft. His combination of speed, he does a lot of things well. And as he continues to work on his body, it could take a couple years, but as he adds that physical strength and matches the rest of his game, I think he can be a really, really good player, especially for the Knicks, who have had a lot
Say it.
Had a lot of middling stuff going on in the last few years. That's Kyra Lewis, the pick I'd make here.
Yeah, I took when I did my first 2 mock, I took Kyra Lewis. Like he's definitely, I think the Knicks need to definitely move up, their pace. Like they're just very stagnant. They play slow. So I think Kyra could definitely bring that element of just playing faster, and especially with RJ Barrett, who moves good in space like that. I think that opens up the offense, and I think Kyra would be a great addition to the Knicks for sure. So definitely like that pick for sure. All right. Steven, I know you keep going in and out.
I'm gonna try to hang in there, dude. I just have to give this pick and be done, man. I'm fighting. I'm trying to do everything I can.
Well, all right. So you got the Washington Wizards.
Yep. So I'm gonna go with Tyrese Halliburton on this one. I like him as a leader a lot. I feel like he's got a winning attitude. He's got the mentality that could eventually, he could end up being the second or maybe even first most important player on the Wizards, as he continues to grow and develop. He's a little bit of insurance for if they do trade either Bill or Wall isn't right coming off of injury. I think he gives them a little bit of help coming off the bench, and he may eventually make Bill tradable or Wall tradable, depending on how he continues to grow and develop. He can shoot, he can handle, his defense. I mean, he's just like everybody else in this draft. Like he's got a weakness, right? Defense isn't really his strong suit, but I like his ability as a combo guard, as a scorer, and as a leader to kind of help the Wizards try to get back into relevancy.
How do you feel about him as a pick and roll player? Because I figure, in today's NBA, pick and roll is so important.
Correct.
He doesn't want to go to the rim.
Yeah, and I think that's something that he could definitely learn. I don't think that it's going to be a limitation. I mean, in college,
we lost him.
Hey, at least he got his pick in.
We got the pick in, though. We got the pick in.
I think, you're right. Halliburton is shy, to put it nicely. He's shy finishing around the rim. Mm-hmm. I like Halliburton a lot. I think I'm a sucker for an instinctual player, and Halliburton is almost like Spidey sense and instincts on both ends. But he doesn't really have a mid-range jumper. He doesn't really have like a floater or anything like that. He's an elite spot-up shooter, even though it looks weird. Like percentage from a percentage standpoint, he's an elite shooter. So I love him from that aspect, but I think you're right. He's gonna have to figure out how to play in the pick and roll, and he's got terrific vision. I think he might be the best passer in this draft. I know some people would definitely argue with that, but if he can, I'm betting on him to figure out how to be productive in the pick and roll just because of how smart he is as a player. I could be wrong, but that's kind of how I'm leaning.
Yeah, so like for me, we've had so much time to overanalyze players in this draft.
That's for
he
sure.
Just
right?
doesn't. He seems so straight up that you don't know if he'll be able to just get downhill on the pick and rolls. And so I wonder, like, I think if you pair him with Bill, I think that's a good fit because Bill can run ball screens and he can pass and he'll knock down open shots. But if he goes to a team where they're expecting him to be like the main ball handler, I think then he could really struggle. He kind of reminds me of Lonzo in a sense.
Yeah,
I think Lonzo is best.
Yeah, they're very similar.
Yeah, you got Ingram can run pick and rolls. You got Holiday, and it allows Lonzo to just kind of spot up. But I also figure like if late in games in the fourth quarter, you want your ball, your point guard to be your primary ball handler. And if you have somebody that you can't really run pick and rolls for, or teams know that he's not going to be a threat to get downhill, then I think it just kind of makes it a little bit difficult for the other guys on the offensive end of the floor. So I think for him, fit is so important early in his career, like everybody else. But
yeah, it's crazy, right? It's fit is going to be very important because you can get low. We've seen so many guys just go to the wrong team and just get super lost, right? Yep. So that's definitely going to be important. All right, Lee, you got the Phoenix Suns and you got San Antonio back to back.
All right. For the Phoenix Suns, this may be a little bit off the beaten path, but probably not too much. I'm going to go with Patrick Williams from Florida State. 6'8", switchable wing, a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde on defense. Even he's a young player. He can kind of like in back-to-back plays he'll give up like a back cut, and you're like, what are you doing? And then the next play he'll like make an electric defensive play by erasing a layup, or something like that. So he certainly has some maturity, especially on the offensive end. But he was a low 30s three-point shooter as a freshman at Florida State. He doesn't have the like raw statistical numbers that a lot of these players in this draft do, just because Florida State plays like 15 guys. The way that Leonard Hamilton runs his system down there, but I think he's got more individual creation than people realize, just because he has, he didn't have the ball in his hand. He didn't have the ball in his hands a ton at Florida State, but when he did, he flashed the ability, get to a mid-range jumper, blow by guys at times. You could probably play 3 or the 4. And Phoenix kind of just needs to continue to add young assets. They've got Ayton at the 5, so I thought about Okongwu, but I just don't know how well those two would pair together. So I think Patrick Williams is just like another young, long athlete with skill upside for them to just continue to add around Booker.
Yeah, for sure. Patrick Williams definitely. I mean, that defense they played at Florida State. I mean, they got some dogs on there, so he definitely fits that mold. Super athletic too, right? So definitely add to that crew in Phoenix. And it's crazy, right? They go into the bubble and they're one of those teams like disappointing, right? Everyone's disappointed. Like you're hearing Devin Booker trade, like he might get traded and all that, and then they go in the bubble and they don't lose a game, right? And they don't lose a game, and now like the future goes from like it looked bleak, like oh man, well, we don't know what the future is going to be for Phoenix, and now like the future is super bright, right? And they can add a few solid players in this draft, and now they're ascending. So it's just crazy how they flipped it in the bubble, and now they're one of the up and coming teams.
The West is crazy.
The West. The West is a problem, and it's going to be it's a war. It's going to be a war next year because you got Golden State coming back. Like it's going to be a war in the West.
Everybody thinks they can make it, or at least they're trying to. That's the
everybody
thing.
trying to make it.
Yeah. Exactly, especially in the West. I mean, even like we talk about the next 2 teams, like they might be the weakest teams in the West, San Antonio and Kings, but the Spurs did some good stuff in the bubble, and Sacramento has pieces, right? I don't know if they have the right, head coach and all that. That's a whole different thing, but they have pieces definitely to be a playoff team. So, all right, Lee, we got the San Antonio Spurs.
All right, Spurs. I'll keep this one a little shorter. I'm going to go with Onyeka Okongwu from USC. You know, the Spurs, they may or may not re-sign Podol, or Jacob Poeltl. So I think they've got to look to get a little bit deeper on the front line. Obviously, Aldridge, you know, will be back for one more go around. But they need a little, you know, they could use some rim protection if Poeltl's going to be out of there. They could use a young big to go along with their young wings that looked pretty good in the bubble. I mean, Lonnie Walker played decent in the bubble. Keldon Johnson flashed a little bit in the bubble. Of course, they've got their young guards. And Okongwu was a little bit miscast, I think, at Southern Cal. He had to play alongside another 7-footer. So they were a little bit jumbled up. I think he's got a little bit more skill than he showed, even though he's certainly got to continue to improve in that aspect as well.
I'm upset because I got the next pick. I believe I'm next. And am I next?
No, we got Steven, but you know what? Since Steven's not here, we can
I was gonna say somebody's gotta
yeah, so you know, we can do a group pick for we can rotate it. So if Ralph, you want to go since you really excited about that. So
I was.
I'll take your guy.
Yeah, because I think one, I have Okongwu as a top 5 pick, but I think that I
was surprised he fell this far. Sure.
Right, and I think that, I mean, with the Kings, their point guard situation is taken care of. Same with shooting guard. I mean, even if they get rid of Buddy or Bogdan, you paid Harrison Barnes $80 million. Marvin Bagley, you got to play him because you want to, you know, you just drafted him number 2. And I think that the one thing that they don't have is a center. So I thought Okongwu would be perfect for them. But since he's not available, it's a tough choice because they have – it's like I don't know, before the season ended, they were one of the hottest teams in the league before the shutdown. And then they weren't able to maintain that momentum once the restart. This one I would I'm going to gamble here. I'm a big Precious Achiuwa fan. I think that, you know, he has high potential, high bust potential. I think that it can go either way. And I'm just going to, you know, gamble on this new Kings front office. And maybe they have a good developmental plan. But yeah, I'm going to take Precious. I think that he shows some skill. I mean, I think his natural position in the NBA is a 5. He'd be somewhat of an undersized 5, but I think that, you know, he can be a good switchy defender, a rebounder. Him and Bagley together, they're kind of similar in a sense, but you know, you hope that one of them can at least learn how to stretch the floor. But I think that, I mean, just a switchy defender. He shows some flashes of being able to pass, even though his turnovers far outweighed his assists. But I'm just going to gamble on his talent. And if I'm Sacramento, at this point, you just got to swing for the fences and swing for a home run as opposed to somebody else that could just kind of join your rotation. Because realistically, I don't think there's anybody on this draft board right now that could come in and start for them right now in a fair, you know, in a fair situation where, you know, they're fighting for roster spots. So. For time.
Do you guys still believe in Marvin Bagley?
He can stay healthy.
I still believe it. I think it just comes down to just health because when he plays, he's putting up the numbers. He's producing. I mean, I think it's tough because obviously, you know, when everyone thinks of Marvin Bagley now, all they're going to think about is, you know, Luka Doncic, right? And you know, it's unfortunate, but you know, I think, you know, if they can get him healthy, keep him healthy, I think they're gonna. He's gonna be a great player. I'm still confident. Maybe it's my Duke fandom that's just wants him to be great, but you know, it kind of reminds me of Brandon Ingram, right? We kept doubting, people kept doubting him. He had injuries, you know, and all that, and then he finally blossomed. Like, so maybe this could happen with Bags. I'm still a Bags believer, so I still think he could be
his
good.
stock. I feel you.
Yeah. He's still super young, right? Because he reclassified at Duke, so. This should be what his first year in the league technically.
Right.
I think he was
age-wise though.
Yeah,
age
he was supposed to be in that class. But
yeah,
he was. Fell back
Yeah,
before.
but he's he held clap, but he's still reclassified, so he's still it's just crazy. He's still super young, so still got faith in him. All right, we got the Pelicans on the clock, Keandre.
Yeah, so I feel like they can go in a lot of different directions here too.
Same exact situation.
Right.
Yeah, and there's people left. There's a lot of guards.
So many guards.
It's really going to come down to what they feel like they are going to do with like Drew in the future. What their plans are for Lonzo, because like he was mentioning earlier, Rob, like Brandon Ingram handles the ball a lot of the time, so your guard spots pretty much don't have to do a lot. But I think I'm going to go with.
This is tough. This is a tough pick.
I really don't know. I think I'm gonna go with RJ Hampton here on this one. I feel like it's a little bit of a weird fit, but I know I've heard a couple things from a lot of different people, a lot of different sources. One of my friends was actually out down there working with RJ and Willie Cauley-Stein and Tyler down there in Texas.
Those are my guys.
Yeah. And his jump shot looks way better than it did.
Yeah, Ralph, you had the video, right? You had the video that you came out with that showed.
Yeah, I shot that, and I put it up like maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and he's I know Sam Vecini was talking about it as well. Yeah, and he looks a lot better. I think if you put him in that transition offense, let him grow in that. I feel like Drew isn't going to be there long term, but you never know. I mean, there are other guys that you could have picked. You got Tyrese Maxey, Cole Anthony. I feel like Cole Anthony is a little bit too ball dominant to fit into that. Maxey would have been okay selection also, but I just go with RJ here. I think he has a lot of potential that we haven't really talked about because he didn't perform at the level that matched his name.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And they don't have to rush him too, because you said, they got a lot of guys on that team. They got a nice roster, so they can kind of ease him in and just let him develop. And then maybe year two, they could use him more when they figure out if they're going to keep Drew, because that's also another thing. He's been on the trade market too, so they figure out what they did with Drew. So that definitely groom them in nice and easy, and they could possibly have someone that, because the talent's there, right? And we like I said, we see all the videos of his improved jumper, so definitely could be a nice pick for them down the future for sure. All right.
That's why I have him going on my last mock, but I know like the fit is weird, and even when I talked to his dad, he's like, "Where you got RJ going?" I said, and it's just a weird fit because even if you go with the roster now, JJ Redick didn't start. And so then, it's between RJ and Nikhil Walker-Alexander and Frank Jackson competing. So as another guard, you could end up going there in your first year being like 9th or 10th man in the rotation. It's Pelicans are a weird fit. I think for me, if I had to when I redo my mock draft, I think the best fit for them, in my opinion, but I'd have to reach up, would be like Jalen Smith. Just because I think that if you pair Zion with the 5 that doesn't shoot, like Jackson Hayes.
I didn't get that fit. That's a weird fit.
I mean, I get the talent. He was so young, but I think Zion needs to be with a stretch 5.
Yeah, agreed.
But you got to find a stretch 5 that can also rebound and block shots, which
there's
is
not a lot of those.
And so I think
not a lot of those running around the league. So
right.
It's definitely tough.
So, short term, I think Jalen Smith might be a good fit, but I'm just curious to see what they do. Like you said, with Drew, it's going to be hard to trade.
That's going to be the biggest thing.
It's so high.
Yeah. But he's just such a good player. I mean, you hear everyone say, like, when people talk about underrated players, and he's literally the first one. Like, he's just such a good player as that. So I think someone will it depends on the asking price too. We don't know what the asking price is, and so we'll see what happens.
Matching that salary, though, how do you match the salary? And then I think he would only want to go to a contender, which means you're going to deplete your assets trying to get him. So he might be stuck there, to be honest with you, until his contract is over.
Yeah, but it could also be a good fit because if Zion stays healthy and you got Brandon Ingram emerging, I mean, we could be talking about this team emerging as
the
a
10th
playoff team. I know the West is tough. But I think it comes down to Zion, right? If Zion's healthy, playing, 70 games plus, maybe this is, they're a playoff team. But that's another.
Who do you bump out?
I know, but
Golden State is going to take Oklahoma City spot.
Oklahoma City, you figured Oklahoma City, since they're probably going to rebuild, you could bump them out,
and that goes to Golden State.
Yeah,
Golden State. But but we also have to see how Golden State, because the injuries and all that. So we got to see, hopefully
they're good. They'll have like a year and a half to recover from whatever injury.
He's ready to go. Yeah, I can't wait to see them. But it's gonna be. But yeah, you're definitely right. Like it's gonna be a battle in the West. So, but we'll definitely see. All right, we got. I'm on the clock. We got Boston. We got the Celtics. I'm gonna give him best player available right here. My best player available is Devin Vassell, Florida State. Guy. I just love him. He's one of my favorite prospects. 3-and-D guy, Florida State. I love his defensive potential to just get better and to add to that Boston team. I think to go with Marcus Smart and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, that'd be great. And he could, shoot the three a little bit here. And I think that'd be a good fit for Boston. He can learn under those guys and, just to add another talent like that, to that Boston team. I think that'd be a nice solid fit for him. All right. All right. We got Orlando. So Ralph, right?
I don't know. The order's all off now.
All right. Yeah. Stevens McDonald's Wi-Fi got us. All right. I think Ralph, you're on the clock.
All right. For Orlando, I think that this is also.
They're another team like that, like middle of the pack, and they got some injuries.
Yeah, man, I think
Isaac news, man.
Yeah, Isaac, that was awful, man. That was tough because it felt like he was going to take that next step, but that fortunate ACL.
For Orlando, I think that they could also look at. I don't know if they're sold on Fultz long term as their point guard, so they can go in that direction. I think Fournier and Ross's contracts are close to ending, and then Isaac. I think I'm gonna go with Aaron Nesmith here. I think that it's kind of tough because if you're from Carolina, right? So Clifford doesn't run like a high-powered offense or whatever, but I think they
need shooting for sure.
They need shooting, yeah. So I'm gonna go with Nesmith.
Aaron Nesmith. Okay. All right. So we got. I think I'm on the clock. I got the Portland Trailblazers.
This is my team, so you got to do them right. You got to.
We got Portland. I'm going to give him Sadiq Bey from Villanova.
I like it. Perfect.
That's a great pick.
I love his shooting ability. You add him to that team, and I think he'll fit right in. Perfect fit for them. So I have Sadiq. Sadiq's a top 14 guy for me on my board. So definitely like the pick for him going to Portland. I think he'll fit in right in. How you like that?
I like it. That's where I have him going.
Okay.
Cool. I love Sadiq Bey. I think also, obviously with the emergence of Gary Trent Jr. in the bubble, that they finally potentially have a wing that they like. It's obviously Melo. You don't know what you necessarily can expect from him next year, even though he was pretty good at the end of this year. So from a roster fit standpoint, I feel like Bey plugs in perfectly at Portland. He's pretty much exactly what they need, isn't he?
Yeah,
exactly. Because
I think it's a home run pick.
Yeah, they need defense, and I always felt like the thing that the Blazers haven't had is another guy that can make plays for others in the lineup. Like if you look at that series where they played the Pelicans, they trapped Dame, and then it was just CJ, and he was the only guy that could make a play. So I think with Bey, he can shoot the three. He shot over 40% from three. Yeah. He can defend multiple positions. Right, but he can pass. He can make plays for others. You can use him as a guy that Villanova had him playing point forward a lot. So if you have him bringing the ball
from time to time, a lot too.
Yeah. So I think it would be perfect. I think now the Blazers, because Trent emerged, then you still got Rodney Hood coming back from his.
I forgot about Rodney. Yeah.
And then if Melo comes back, he has to play the four. Like I hated every moment of Melo playing the three, but he has to play the four. And then I just wonder what they do with obviously Nurkic is going to start, and I think Collins is a 5, but I don't understand what they were thinking trying to play Collins and Nurkic together at the 4 and the 5.
Oh yeah, that's not smart.
Yeah,
Not smart.
I think Ray slides well into that Aminu Harkless role.
Yeah.
I was really concerned about their team this year, letting both of them go and then trying to run 2 bigs like that. You put him in that spot, I think they're gonna make a lot of noise.
Yeah, to me that makes most sense.
Yeah, especially losing Mo Harkless was tough because he was an important piece to that team. So they definitely need to find a replacement for that. So I think Saddiq Bey would be could definitely fit in perfect with the Blazers. All right, Keandre, we got the Minnesota Timberwolves on the clock. So they had the number 1 pick.
I got the Timberwolves.
Yeah, so they got the number 1 pick, and they took they took Anthony Edwards, so they already got 1 pick down. So this is their second first-round pick.
All right, so I was centered on the Mavericks as the next pick I was about to do. So
you could do both since that was Steven's pick, so you can get both.
Okay, so for the Timberwolves, they just got Anthony Edwards. I think they should take a guy that we were talking about earlier and go with Jalen Smith here. In that, Karl Towns, defensively, he's been spotty. He's been mostly bad, but he's had his moments. I think if you have another guy who can come in, shoot threes, protect the rim, slide catch to the 4, he doesn't have to bang like that. Guys like him and AD don't want to guard 5s all the time. I think it's going to take Jalen Smith a minute to, add on that strength and weight, but just someone you can throw in there. Similarly to what Gorgie Zhang has been doing for the last couple of seasons, but at a better level.
Definitely similar, yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense here.
Okay. Nice pick. All right, we got Dallas next.
For Dallas, obviously they think they can, compete now after that Clippers series. I think I don't know. Their team is kind of weird. Dwight Powell gave them a lot of good minutes.
Yeah,
Porzingis is playing great when he's healthy.
Key word, that is a big It's healthy.
Shoot.
Melly was good in the bubble too, I thought.
Yeah.
You got guys like Tim Hardaway was playing really good this year.
Seth Curry had a good year.
Yeah, Tim Hardaway in that role is perfect because, when he was with the Knicks, obviously being when you're the lead guy, it's tough. So, but in this role where he's the 3rd, 4-up option, he's perfect because he was tremendous in that role with Dallas.
Yeah, and Dorian Finney-Smith is coming in, giving good minutes, guarding a lot of different people. But I think here, as much as I like what Jalen Brunson does when he's healthy, I think they just go with Tyrese Maxey here. I think he's probably the best player left.
Hometown guy.
Yeah, and put him next to Luka. He can just guard opposing guards. Shoot threes, make plays. I think it's a good situation for him, and it makes sense for their team.
Just getting more firepower on offense too, right?
that could be a good fit. I mean, one, it's his hometown, and 2, Kentucky guys the last few years, other than Kevin Knox, have been better.
Why'd you gotta say that, man?
I forgot him. I mentioned him. I mentioned all the Kentucky guys that were better. And it was on the Knicks TV podcast. I was like, Hero was a better pro than he was college player, and then Cat. We didn't know Cat could shoot threes like this. We didn't know Gilgeous Alexander was that guy. And then Knicks fans were like, "Well, what about Kevin Knox?" I forgot about that.
I told you, bro, when you went on show, they're gonna come after you, bro.
The show was fun. The show was definitely fun. But So other than that, I mean, Tyrese, he shot the ball so bad compared to what I expected. I think it was 29% or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think that could be a good fit. Carlisle always figures out how to get his guards in the rotation. I was trying to decide between Josh Green or even like Cole Anthony. I wasn't like a big Cole Anthony fan, but I think that would be the perfect situation for him in a sense because he doesn't have to play point guard.
Yeah.
And he was such a good shooter off the ball. No pun intended, or maybe there was pun intended, but he was such a good shooter off the ball when he had the opportunity to. And I think the biggest issue with him is does he have to run a team? And if he plays with Luka, he can just score.
Exactly. Yeah, that'd be perfect for him. All right, we got the Brooklyn Nets, Lee.
All right. Obviously, this is an interesting one. I mean, what does Brooklyn do here? Do they try and grab a piece that they think can help, or do they try and swing for the fences to straddle the win now, but also build for the future type of thing that sometimes good teams do try to do a little bit? So I honestly went back and forth quite a few times here. I'm going to take Desmond Bane. I'm actually surprisingly, as I take him right now, I'm not as high on Bane as a lot of other folks are, even though I think he's a really solid prospect. I just think from a fit perspective, especially if they don't or if they can't re-sign Joe Harris, right? Like they're going to have to add some shooting around KD and Kyrie. Mm-hmm. They've got Jared Allen, who was a pretty solid young center. They've got Karis LeVert, who can make plays with the ball in his hands. But they're just going to need I think the term 3-and-D has gotten so outplayed, but they are going to need a guy that can guard the ball, that can rotate on defense, that can make open shots, and that's what Desmond Bane does. So if they're not going to swing for the fences and take Poku for 5 years down the road, they might as well take Bane and try and win now and add a piece that'll actually be in the rotation.
I think that's a great pick. I haven't had him that high, but I think with the
me neither.
It just fit. I mean, I felt like he was going to fall either way to a great team, whether it was Milwaukee or the Lakers. Right. I figured he was just going to fall into an ideal situation, but the Nets makes perfect sense. If you're Joe Harris's agent, you're like, dang, he may have brought the value down a little bit. Because now you may think like you got your replacement. But if you have a lineup with Kyrie and Joe Harris and Bane and Durant and
that's
that's a good point. You could draft Bane and still bring back Harris. You really could.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's a great fit. And then I think Spencer's gone. I think LeVert stays because of the whole Rock Nation connection, and he's close with KD. And I didn't realize Kyrie was on Rock Nation until like last week. I didn't know that. And so, I think LeVert stays, but I think he ends up being like the sixth man. He plays like because I don't know if he complements those guys.
Yeah,
because he can't play like he did in the bubble with Kyrie and KD on the court. That's just not going to be the case. It's going to be.
Maybe with one of them, but maybe not necessarily both at the same time. But yeah, Bane would be a pick to the Nets that I've never considered, which I think makes a lot of sense there.
Okay, all right. So Lee, we got you with the Miami Heat.
Oh boy. All right. Well, obviously the Miami Heat are a very, very popular team right now for good reason, just winning the East and winning last night. So. As I'm looking at who's available and what the Heat need, which, man, I'm gonna go with Vernon Carey Jr. here.
Oh,
yeah, I prefer. I know not everyone does, but I prefer Vernon Carey's I prefer him in that group of bigs that are similar to him. I prefer him to Isaiah Stewart. And I think with Bam being hurt in this finals, it's kind of illuminated their lack of depth at big, as incredible as Bam is. And when you have him, you really don't need much else. But to draft another young big that they don't need right away, frankly, but that can kind of develop in that Heat, hashtag Heat culture situation they've got going on down there. I think Vernon Carey, obviously, he's got a motor, and I think he's got a little bit more skill than he's flashed this year at Duke. So Yeah, I'll take Vernon Carey Jr. from Duke.
Born in the wrong year. He's a top 5 pick 20 years ago.
Right.
2002.
It's like the Jahlil Okafor, right? Jahlil Okafor, if he was just a few more years before that, he's probably, even the top pick, and it's unfortunate, like guys like they're kind of similar, style and like how those guys have faded away. So, and I know his defense needs work for sure.
Him, Cantor,
No
you
doubt.
can say the same thing about Cantor.
Yeah. And that's why those guys don't play in the fourth. So that's why, like, it pains me that a lot of people don't have him as a first round pick, because I feel like he is a first round talent, but I could see why he could drop to the second round, because he might not be, you can't play him in the fourth quarter where, pick and roll situations. He just, you're going to bull right past him every time, so
Right.
but the talent is there though. He is talented offensively. He's gifted. And, his dad played in the NFL. I don't know if you guys, dad played in the NFL for a long time with the Dolphins and all that. So, I'm rooting for him as being a Duke fan, but, we'll see where he goes. That's going to be interesting. All right. So this was Steven's pick. Ralph, you want to go with the Sixers?
Is it the Sixers?
Yeah, we got the 76.
21, yep.
Yeah.
21. Philly. Actually, with this, I think it's easy. I didn't think he'll fall this low, but I would take Cole Anthony.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take Cole Anthony. I think they need they just need some depth at guard. Like I said earlier, I think Cole shot the ball really well in off the ball situations. Now it's not gonna help him. His finishing numbers at the rim were pretty bad this year. And so now he goes into another situation where there won't be a lot of floor spacing. But I do think that Philly, I mean, there's a lot of things that they need. I could have went in another direction with like Josh Green and try to find them a shooter since Bane is gone. But yeah, I just think that Anthony is a guy that he was considered a top 5 to 10 pick coming into the draft. Mm-hmm. And you might be able to get you a steal to see him sitting there at 21. So I think you take him there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely be a steal at 21.
That's good value. That's really good value.
Oh, yeah. Really good value. All right. Keandre, we got Denver Nuggets.
Denver Nuggets. Okay. So I also thought I was going with the Jazz on this one. Yeah, the Nuggets have had like some of the most depth in the league over the last couple years. There's a lot of stuff that's gonna happen. You got guys Gary Harris, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. trying to figure out how to fit, people around them and with them. I really don't know with this one, because I also don't know whoever they draft. Like, are they even going to get to play? I'm not sure off the top of my head how much time is left on Plumlee's contract, but
he's unrestricted, I believe.
This year?
Yeah, I believe so. I'll check that real quick, but yeah.
I think if you go with they got Jeremy Grant too.
He's a free agent.
He's a free agent, so he's gonna want to get paid too. And they said they want him back too. They want Grant back for sure. He definitely. He did his thing in the bubble.
Yeah, so Millsap, Plumlee, and Grant are all free agents. Grant's the only one with a player option. The other two are unrestricted.
Mm-hmm. And Grant said he's opting out.
Yeah.
Which he should.
Which he should, because he's definitely gonna get a nice pay raise.
Probably double.
Yeah.
He's making 9. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they let Millsap walk probably, and then Michael Porter and Grant step in there. I think I'm gonna just go with a backup big and take Zeke Naji here. I think his athleticism, just being a guy, just hitting jumpers, getting rebounds, being a really high energy guy, just playing 10 to 15 minutes because Jokic is gonna take most of that time up there. Mm-hmm. And then they got the big wings playing the 4. I think that he could just slide in and play spot minutes and develop over there in Denver.
Jokic would be telling the front office, you got to pick my fellow Serbian.
Yeah.
And they don't need him. I would see it just seems like Pokusevski is such a Nuggets pick to me.
Yeah, but draft Twitter would literally implode if Bol Bol and Poku were on the same team. So I don't know. I don't know if we can do that.
Yeah, it's just a lot of. There's a lot of. They just have a lot. Like right
They
now,
do.
whoever you pick, there's somebody in their spot like already.
Yep.
So
I like it.
Jazz, am I going with the Jazz too?
No, I think I'm. Let's see. Yeah, I'm up on that 'cause I got the Jazz.
Okay.
All right, so I got the Jazz, and I mean they can go a few ways here too, but I'm gonna go with Grant Riller here. He's my highest rated player right here. Just a guy who could just flat out just score. He could shoot it from everywhere. I just love his scoring ability and all that. I know people bring up didn't play high level basketball and his age, but to me I don't. I think his game translates, and spark plug off the bench for Utah. So I'll give him Grant Riller. All right, so we got Ralph.
Intel pick to get, so
Exactly right.
What'd you say?
We got Milwaukee, Ralph.
Oh, I got the Bucks.
You got the Bucks, and you got OKC after that.
Ah, man, the Bucks is tough.
mhm.
The Bucks are tough. I would say, and I've had them going there before, Nico Mannion, but I have to ask myself, can Nico Mannion beat out Frank Mason Jr. in minutes in a head-to-head fair competition, not based off of draft pick? I don't know if he could beat him out.
Yeah.
And so, but I think that again, Desmond Bane would be a perfect fit there. Yeah, I think here actually, you know what? I would, if I'm the Bucks, their lineup is set, and I'm believing my developmental staff. I'm gonna go with Jaden McDaniels here.
Mm.
Yeah, he's special. Like he's probably like gifted wise, like top 5, top 10 in this class, just on pure just physical gifts. Like
Yeah, without a doubt. And I figure if you're in Milwaukee, you have the talent, you have a G League team close by, and you trust your staff that you can develop him and groom him and help him maximize his potential. You don't need him to come in and play right away. You really don't need any of these, whoever they take at 24 to come in right away. So might as well swing for the fences there.
I like that. I hope McDaniels either goes to Milwaukee or Toronto just for his own sake, like from a developmental standpoint. Because if he can put it together, he's obviously, like you said, he's got special tools. I just like you indicated earlier, certain guys fit is so important. I feel like fit from a development standpoint for him is very important in this draft.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Even Oklahoma City, I would like to see him go there.
Yep.
I mean, Ferguson
Yep.
hasn't worked out like he thought, but Baisley, I didn't think that he would come in and play.
Crazy, yeah.
Dort was a two-way guy, and he ended up starting for them in the playoffs. So I think the Thunder, and it's a city where it's kind of boring in a sense. Like, I think
There's nothing to do
on your
over
game.
the home. Yeah, right.
yeah,
all
I
you
think
gotta
for
do.
some developmental guys, they need to be in the city like Oklahoma City, and their team is right there. And I used to work in the G League, and I've always admired how they ran their developmental program, just from like the staff to the coaches. And so I think that Oklahoma City would also be a good pick for McDaniels.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so I'm at 25. I got the Thunder.
Yep, you got OKC.
I think this is one of those situations where you just go off of who you think has the highest upside, because you're going to be rebuilding for a while. Here I would take Balmero, even though I don't think he's going to play this year, because he's already playing for Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't think they'd expect him to play. I mean, he already said he's going to pretty much stay, but I think that he has a guy that can probably play up to 3 positions for you as he gets older. And so I think I would go with Balmero there.
Okay. All right. So I'm up with the Boston Celtics, and I'm surprised he's still here, but I'm going to take Alexis Pokashevsky here.
There you go.
I think if there's a team that could develop too, Boston's one of those, another team like that would be a perfect fit for him. His wing, was he 7'3" wingspan? He just so smooth for a guy that big, and I think is there, they could develop him. Like I said, they don't have to force him to play. He could learn, develop behind a great group of guys. I know we gave him Boston had already had a pick. I think we gave him
they got Vassell.
Vassell. So Vassell and Poku draft for a team that's was in the conference finals. Like, I mean, Boston, yeah, like the rich get richer, right? So I think that'd be great. If Poku to Boston. So that's my pick.
I think that's an ideal fit for them because the one thing I question about him is toughness.
Yeah,
and
he'll learn.
He'd have to be tough there.
Oh, yeah, of course.
He'd be forced to, and so, I think that would be be great because I wouldn't even be shocked if they take him as high as 14 because I think Ainge has already said that they're in position to, take a developmental guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean they're in a luxury position where even with that early 14th pick, like you said, they could take whoever an upside pick. So Boston just keeps getting richer. All right, so we got Keandre back with the Knicks, man. So you got the Knicks again. So Knicks Twitter is gonna they're lurking. So we get with the first pick we gave the Knicks Carol Lewis Jr. So good pick, point guard. All right, so who's the pick here?
I don't really want that Knicks smoke. I've seen how they booed people. I don't want it.
Man, they would have booed Michael Jordan if they drafted him. It's like the Jets. Whenever the Jets pick, they just boo whoever, and that's just Jets Knicks that they just do that. So that's just the Knicks fans' DNA.
Here, I think I'm gonna go with Josh Green.
Okay.
I think his shooting. I think you can plug him in, play two positions, and you got Kyra Lewis and RJ doing most of the ball handling responsibilities. I think he's just someone who can fit on a lot of different teams. It just depends on, just whoever else is on the board, potential and all that.
The Knicks to use all the talent they can, and he might be a Tibbs guy. He kind of fits in that Tibbs mold. So maybe I think that could be definitely a good fit for the Knicks because, like I said, we need all the help possible. So I think that would be a nice pick for the Knicks at 27. All right, so Conji, you want to go with the Lakers again? Take the Lakers with this one.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with. There's a couple people still left on the board that I really like. But for the Lakers, I don't know. I'm kind of stuck between Taiyo Maladon and Tyrell Terry on this one. I think I'm going to go with Tyrell Terry here. I think his, from what I've seen, he's developed a lot. They're always going to put out he's gained 45 pounds of muscle.
Yeah.
He gained 6 inches. He went 6'7". He's 240 now.
Yeah. I don't believe a lot of that, but he does seem like he's making strides. And
he did look stronger. He does look a little stronger.
And who knows what's going to happen with Rondo and the rest of those guards.
They're older team too, so they could use some young guys on that team.
Rondo's not going to play to the playoffs anyway, so.
Right? It's playoff Rondo, right?
It's just going to coast.
He's on a lot of podcasts. He said he's mentioned retirement after this season if they were able to win it. So, I think Tyrell Terry fits really well next to LeBron and AD.
Oh, right. With that shooting, that's the LeBron loves those type
of cover up a lot of what he can do defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got that, I don't know how to describe it other than just, he's kind of a dick. You can just see it out there when he's on the court. He doesn't care about – he's just going hard all the time. So
his motor, he's definitely got a high motor.
It's a good choice.
Yeah, that's definitely a good pick. All right, so we got the last 2 picks, Lee. You got Toronto. You got the Boston Celtics.
All right. So Toronto is really interesting. They've got a young nucleus, obviously with Siakam and OG and Norman Powell and some of these guys. And Lowry's gonna be back for one more year, but Gasol's likely gone. Ibaka is an unrestricted.
I think Gasol went to Spain, right?
What's that?
Gasol went to Spain, right? He's
not officially.
unofficially, but
that's what they're saying. Yeah. And of course, Van Fleet obviously is unrestricted and is definitely going to secure the bag in the offseason.
Oh yeah.
So,
and they're going to give him 150 mil.
So, I think Toronto is really interesting here. I think they could go a number of different ways, really. I'm going to go with the guy that I love, and maybe it's not the best fit, but with Ibaka and Gasol likely not back, I'm going to go with Daniel Oturu from Minnesota. He's definitely a work in progress from like an offensive continuity standpoint. I mean, Minnesota was a mess on the offensive end this past year, but he can really score. He can step out and shoot it. He's got some rim protection qualities. Laterally, you definitely probably worry about him in the pick and roll and with switches in the NBA. But like we talked about, Toronto can really develop, and he's got all the talent you could ask for from like a stretch five, but also with a pretty refined post game. So I love Oturu, and I think he could be a nice piece for Toronto to add as they try and figure out where they're going. I mean, they're probably going to continue to be competitive because they're Toronto and they have some pretty good players, but their roster is going to look a lot different, over the next 2 years.
That's for sure.
And then last one, I'll keep short and sweet. A guy that was just mentioned, Taiyo Maladon, the French guard. I love him. I think he can play on or off the ball. I think he sees the floor really, really well. He's got a really good burst in the pick and roll. I mean, I watch him and I keep wondering how he keeps getting by guys, but he always does. I mean, he just consistently squirts by defenders because I think he just knows how to play, honestly. And he's pretty young. He can shoot it off the dribble. He can shoot it off the catch. Boston could use a guy kind of as a young developmental piece. So I like Taiyo at this pick.
No, Boston would have a home run with this draft. I mean, they would definitely with Vassell, Poku, and Maladon. That's definitely a home run of a draft for them. Yeah,
but I still don't think they keep all of them. I think
no, definitely not.
You package them and you. I don't know. I think they can probably get a. He's not a. I don't know. He wouldn't be the best fit, but size wise, I think a guy like Whiteside may be available for really cheap. I think if DeMarcus Cousins is going back to the Lakers, Dwight could be available for pretty cheap.
So they may be able to could be smart because if he's healthy, I mean, we obviously know what he could do if he's healthy, but that's going to be the biggest thing is his health. But you can get him for without giving up assets, you can get him for free because you can get him on a vet min, and I think that could be possibly something they could do. But they definitely
I think they got some handshake deal where he stays in LA.
With White?
Oh yeah.
DeMarcus Cousins.
Or DeMarcus, because they waived him, right? They did waive him.
Yeah. And if he gets a ring, then it's some type of handshake.
Imagine he gets a ring.
He might. He was on the roster for.
He's on a roster enough, right?
Yeah.
He's long enough, right? That's crazy, right? But that concludes the first round of the mock draft. So just give me a couple guys that you're surprised didn't get picked. Keandre?
I like Jamias Ramsey a lot. I know he's kind of controversial for some people, but I think he has a lot of talent. And then, other than that, everybody else seems, pretty much where I thought they'd go. I think Jay Scrubb has a chance to rise up boards.
He's rising big time.
But other than that, yeah, I think mostly went according to how I thought it would.
What about you, Ralph?
Tyler Bay falling out the first round.
Yeah.
I think that was the biggest one. Tyler Bay was probably the biggest one. I have him as a first round on my board. Ramsey's a guy who I have borderline first round, so that's not two. I think Zeke Nnaji was he bumped some guys out. He bumped at least one person out. I have Cassius Stanley as a first round pick. I'm sorry, Cassius Winston.
Yeah, because you had him going to the Knicks in your mock draft, right?
Yeah, I think some teams are gonna pass him up because he doesn't pass the eye test. He's old, he's not this, he's not that.
22 is old in NBA now. That's crazy.
Right.
But I think once you roll the ball out,
yeah,
he's a ball player.
That's for sure. Lee, what about you?
Yeah, I got a couple guys. I mean, I think Winston's teammate, Tillman, back half of the first round, is probable. I really like Robert Woodard from Mississippi State a lot. I think he's a first round talent. Elijah Hughes is a guy I think you could see late in the first round. And then I got to plug one of my favorite players in the draft that doesn't get a ton of love, but I think Emmanuel Quickley is going to be a really good NBA player.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like
he's going to end up going to one of those teams where he's a guy that if he somehow he ends up undrafted, he ends up in Houston.
I like that.
Yeah, he ends up.
Yeah, he's a better defender than people give him credit for. He was SEC Player of the Year, big time shooter. No. He moves so well off the ball and like just hunt shots. I think because Maxey for good reason gets a ton of attention. But I think Quickley is one of the most overlooked guys in this draft. I'm a kind of attaching my a stamp of approval on him. We'll see how it works out.
Yeah, because some draft boards have him in the 50s.
Right. Or not. Or I've even seen him go undrafted.
Yeah,
I've seen 80s for him. 80, yeah. I've seen a few when doing. Yeah, I've seen 80s. That too. I mean, that's crazy. But even Jay Scrub too, I've saw in the 70s and 80s. Like I think I
get that a little bit more.
I can understand that because obviously community college and all that, but still it's crazy that some of these guys are ranked so low. But so before I let you guys go, give me a couple of sleepers. Give me like 2 or 3 sleepers like that. Not a lot of people are talking about that you really like. So Lee, you go first.
One of mine, these are going to be kind of deep cut. So I'm not necessarily saying they're definitely going to be successful in the NBA. I think Kyler Kelly from Oregon State, he's one of the best shot blockers in the country. He's an older guy for sure. He only played 2 years at Oregon State. He played in community college prior to that. But I mean, you just kind of like, for me, his best case scenario is like a development McGee type. I mean, he's just like a 7'1" lengthy guy that can protect the rim, can finish around the rim. So I wouldn't be surprised in like 2 to 3 years, all of a sudden he's like a rotational piece for a decent team, and people are like, where the hell did this guy come from? So that's one of mine, and then I'll give you one more. I really like Taishan Alexander from Creighton. I think he's starting to get a little more buzz. But, I don't know if he's necessarily a sleeper. I think so. A lot of people have him in the second round, but I just think he's going to end up being a rotational, like off-guard piece in the NBA, too.
Okay. What about you, Ralph?
Yeah, I wanted to add the Kyler Kelly one. There's a guy who's like my friend on Facebook. I guess he's training him, and he's just tagging a whole bunch of people.
Really?
So, yeah. just show his videos. And so I watched this. I was like, oh, this kid. Then I started doing the research. Like, he's kind of raw in a sense. But I agree with everything you said. I think he's a guy that like Toronto signed an hour after the draft. They have him with their 905, and then next thing you know, in year 2, he's playing rotation minutes. But for me, I think the sleeper is Rokas Jokubaitis from Lithuania. I don't know if you had a chance to watch him. He's 6'4", he's left-handed. I first saw him play I guess it was 4 years ago. It was in a tournament with Sekou played in that tournament. Frank Ntilikina was in a tournament. There was a few guys that are NBA now that were in that tournament. And he was probably like 16 at the time, maybe. I thought he was very good. Then I saw him last summer with the Lithuanian national team. He reminds me of Dragic in a sense. He doesn't have the burst, but he's lefty. He can play the pick and roll. He can play on or off the ball. And right now, he's playing for Zalgiris, which he's playing in the EuroLeague, and he had a big game a couple days ago. And people may remember him from when the Ball brothers played in Lithuania. They played Zalgiris, and he lit them up for 31. But he's bigger now. He's 6'4" now. I think he's probably like 6'1" or 6'2" at the time. But I think that he is a definite sleeper.
Okay.
Love it.
What about you, Keandre?
I don't think he's really necessarily a sleeper. I think a lot of people talk about him, but I like Malachi Flynn's game.
Yeah.
I think if he
For
goes
sure.
to the right situation, like a Philly or something, he can really shine there. And then, I doubt he gets drafted, but a guy like Trace Tinkle, Oregon State, I think he's shown a lot over there. Percentage-wise, he didn't shoot it great, but prospectively, I think he can be one of those undrafted free agents and maybe grow over time. He's a little older, but
Two Oregon State guys.
Yeah. Well, this was fun, guys. I appreciate everyone coming on the show. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate your time, doing this mock draft. This is the 4th edition, but like I said, thanks for coming on and sharing your insight. Every time I do these, I feel like I learn a little bit more and more about these guys. So, and like, that's why I was happy to have you guys on here. You guys are some of the best to do it. So before I officially let you guys go, just plug what you're doing, projects you have going on. So Lee, what you got going on?
Yeah, so at Which Carolina on Twitter, which is the name of a sports podcast I do with 2 other guys. And then I contributed a couple different sites. Swarm and Sting is a Charlotte Hornets fan site that I contribute at, and Hoops Prospect is an NBA site that I contribute at. So just follow me on Twitter, check out the podcast when you get a chance, and keep a lookout for my articles that'll be coming out.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me, by the way. Really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you coming on, man. This was a lot of fun. Keandre?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube, Hoop Intellect. We do a lot of videos every week.
It's a great name, by the way.
Congrats on 10K.
Yeah, appreciate it. It's been a weird road, but yeah, finally hit it. And then on Twitter, Hoop Intellect with 3 L's because the dude who somehow he had the name before me. Yeah, we just putting out different types of content.
Awesome.
Thank you for bringing me on as well.
No doubt. Ralph?
Yeah, I'm at NBA Draft Junkies on YouTube. And then on Twitter, it's Barlow 500. I have an NBA Draft Junkies Twitter account, but I'm rarely on it. I need to do a better job, but I just like having my name because in general I can talk about the draft and whatever crazy stuff I see in there. But I probably need to do a better job of just having the micro content from the site. But yeah, I got my website NBADraftJunkies.com, and then I try to put out. My goal is the next month or so, at least 5 to 7 videos a week on prospects. So, but yeah, I'm just working.
Awesome. Yeah, said you two with Keandre and Ralph. I watching your videos for a while, and that's how I've been getting my stuff. Figure out these prospects and all that. So I've really been appreciated you guys, that the effort you guys put into your videos, your content is just, it's out of this world. It's definitely you guys by far have the 2 best draft evaluations. You guys are just very detailed with it, and that's what I love about your guys YouTube stuff. And that's why, like I said, you guys do a hell of a job. Lee, I've just started, we just started getting contact each other on Twitter, and you're definitely another guy that really like your work that you do. So like I said, guys, you guys are killing it, man. Continue to kill it. Continue to nothing but success on what you guys are doing. So I'm rooting for all you guys. But on that note, guys, thank you for hopping on the NBA Draft live mock draft show 4.0, and make sure be safe wherever you are. Everyone, please be safe. Wear your mask, do whatever it takes. Please wear your mask so we don't have another freaking shutdown. We don't need that right now. Yeah, guys. Like I said, thank you for coming on the show, and I appreciate your time. And like I said,